places like this, I feel like, is really where creativity thrives. When people lack capital, they start to cling to creative influences.
For sure.
Even being like a poor college student, you know what I mean? That's when I can remember being my most creative self, you know, when I was really just an explorative state.
Like being in the situation that a lot of people here are in, it almost calls for a search, you know, for like a this hunt to be okay, you know, or to like solve the problem, or to solve their own problem, or whatever scale it is. There's definitely a search that happens and a hunger for
like to create
relief,
something of value,
you know, and to create something of value, which will relieve something of people, hopefully. You know, I think, at least for me, that's kind of what it is you know, I hope that I can bring a relief or a change, you know.
Bernard Glockner died in 1876. It is recalled that the funeral cortege was the largest ever seen in the city.
This is the Local Legends Podcast.
Welcome back to the Local Legends Podcast. I'm in the Glockner Speakeasy with my longtime friend, local songwriter, producer, musician, Noah Colley. What's up, man?
Hey.
Welcome to the podcast, bro.
Thanks, man.
I'm really been excited for this moment because I knew it was coming.
Yeah, I've been really excited about it too. A little nervous, but excited.
You know, I have so many people to thank for like bringing these small town success stories to life. But when it comes to making the podcast sound better, just the overall quality of the production, I have you to thank in the forefront, my man. So, I mean, you've been just since day one, just giving me critiques and some helpful criticism, just have been overall my most influential peer in making this thing sound better every episode. And I want to thank you for that. So,
sure thing.
Yeah.
Happy to help.
Just tell everyone who you are and what you do. Let's start with that.
My name is Noah Colley. I'm a songwriter. I guess I'm a musician. You know, if I'd fill out a paper and it asked me what my profession is, I would put musician, you know. And I'm just starting. I haven't done anything of extreme popularity or notice, so I'm just working my way up, I guess, and trying to make art.
Absolutely, man. And at this point, you have like a really rich body of work out and available with We Are the Water. So just tell me a little bit about how you got to creating that that project. I mean, listen, we've been friends for a really long time, so I could probably like recite a lot of my perspective, and I think we will, you know. But just talk about that project in general, what it means to you to release that, because it's certainly a far cry from just like, I mean, you're not constrained to just an acoustic guitar, you know, it's not one-dimensional, multiple vocal layers, like multiple instruments being played. You're pulling that all together in post-production, and it just sounds really like rich and, you know, intentional. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, thanks. That was for the colorful description. I guess just starting, We the Water, this most recent release was a 4-song EP, and it's The First Fall is the subtitle, and that's because it's part 1 of 3 in a series of releases that I'm going to do. And how it started actually was after college. I went to Morehead State and graduated in 2018, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I sang opera or classical music, you know, in college, and I didn't really want to go down that path. I wanted to write my own songs and not sing the songs of guys in wigs from a long time ago, you know.
Well, no, if I remember correctly, because just attending your concerts at Morehead, there weren't even like mics or anything in that auditorium. Like it was proper opera, like where you're using the acoustics of the room when you project your voice.
Yeah, no mics. And that's something you learn how to do, or you hope to learn how to do, is project your voice in that way. And, you know, I'm not the best classical singer, and I would never claim to be, but school definitely helped I wouldn't take it back. I don't regret going to school. I could have started writing songs instead of going down that path, but I think school has brought me uniqueness, I guess, or maybe like certain skills that maybe not everyone else would bring to what I'm making.
Well, yeah, the classical program's pretty intense, and you definitely left there with a skill set that I hadn't seen before. They kind of brought it out in you.
Yeah, and just the vocal, like saying that's my instrument, is my voice. You can kind of see that in the music now as I'm really pushing the vocals, and they might not be the most beautiful vocals ever, and but I'm adding a lot of layers, and I really like that, the way it sounds, and I feel like it gets to where I want it to be, and that's all I really want when I'm writing, is finding something that feels good, and it feels good when I do a lot of vocals. Yeah, but anyways, after school, I wanted to start writing. I really was and am a big fan of Dave Matthews and Dave Matthews Band, and just seeing him with a guitar and really connecting to his music, it was inspiring. And learning about his story, and I'm like, man, that could be me. So then I started writing and failed miserably, and I would start songs and stop halfway through and never finish them, and that was like 2 years of nonsense and kind of being shy, I think is a good way to describe it.
Yeah, I'd say very, especially since you're in school and you're just focusing on developing your craft, you're not like producing something.
Yeah.
It probably did feel like kind of a long process, right?
Yeah, it was more about creativity, and in school it's more about, it's like I don't want to say creativity isn't a skill, but it's more about like your performance and your technical ability than it is about being creative, and they don't really lend to each other too much.
But I'd say your music has a lot more, and especially the body of work you just put out is extremely technical in a lot of ways. So like, what kind of techniques do you think you brought away from school that you didn't have when you went? Is there anything specifically, like any specific class that was really grueling for you but brought out some kind of skill that you didn't know you could obtain?
I don't really know. Interestingly, I guess there was kind of 3 different sections in school. There was the people who really were into choir and kind of really admired the choir teacher, and then there's the ones that are more focused on their classical ability. This is just the vocal people, not the instrumental people.
Yeah.
Who are lovely people too, but there were the people that only focused on the classical side, and then there was like this jazz, more modern style of singing that people kind of leaned towards, and those were kind of the 3 things. And I did them all at one point, and I couldn't do them all in a way, because when I got into choir, I was told, "Shh, you're too loud," and he would always point at me and be like, no.
As in, I guess you're overpowering the other people in the group.
Yeah, I wasn't. I just didn't mesh so much, and there's a big story about that too. But that was my problem in choir. And then when I got to the classical side of things,
what would you say the focus of that part of the program is? It's
more about learning, like you said, projection and tone, and choir has that stuff too, but in a different way. And it's really just pushing your voice to this romanticized state of like beauty, and finding out how to do that.
Dynamicism, basically.
Yeah, dynamicism, and
I feel like, from my perspective, Noah, when I first heard you, like the first time we watched you perform when you were in the classic music program, it's like your voice had more of a value scale to it. Like it wasn't just black and white anymore. There was like 10 different shades that went in between black and white, and you were able to express that in your voice in a way that I hadn't heard previously. And that's the only thing I can relate it to, because like I'm much more visually sophisticated than I am audio wise, you know?
Yeah.
But I think maybe for sure that you've built like a palette or a skill set there that you didn't have previously, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. That's kind of what I was saying with the three different things, and with the like going on the jazz thing. The reason I wasn't fitting into all these groups is because I was kind of all over the board, you know, and they would always say stick to one and don't do the other ones, because you'll never like be the best you can be in the one thing if you're spreading yourself out. And I just never really stuck into one until the end, and then I didn't want to do it anymore, you know, the classical side of things. So, you know, bringing that into my music, I guess, is there's this variety I don't want to say I'm trying, but that's coming out. There's a variety that's coming out, and I would say that's from school.
Yeah.
You know?
No, you are. I feel like you've always been that way. No, you've just had kind of like a more multi-dimensional skill set, and whatever we do, you pick up things quick, and you like to kind of operate in like as many domains as possible, kind of thing. You know, you like to explore. Like it's very explorative. Like you're curious.
Definitely curious. Yeah. I don't really know why that is, but I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah, so that comes out 100% reflects in the music. Like in I Am at the very end of the album, which I'd like to get more into the project itself and talk about some of your influences there.
Sure.
But I Am itself has like this really rich kind of like choir-like intro. And then Worthy is just kind of like an acoustic ballad is how I would describe it, you know? Very, like, in having those tracks back to back, it's like, whoa, this guy's like really expressing a very broad range of talents and emotions.
Thanks.
But yeah, and I can see that come out in your work. But you, like you said, you even when you were kind of fumbling around school trying to find out which pocket you fit in, you realized maybe that you didn't need to fit a specific pocket.
Yeah. That's definitely been hard in a lot of ways, and it's probably easy in some ways too. But in school, my music teacher, Eric Brown, who I love to death, you know, he told me as soon as we, like, it wasn't very long into our, like, you know, our friendship and him teaching me that he said, Noah, you know, a lot of people are going to love your voice and a lot of people are going to hate your voice. You know, there's no in between. And that scared me a lot. But it's true, you know, and it's probably true for anybody. But to me, it felt like I'm standing out. I'm unique in that way. That I don't know. It kind of made a complex in me that made me scared of my voice and dislike my voice in a lot of ways. And it made me scared to perform and to show people and sing to people. But now I'm not scared of it anymore, and I think it's probably a good thing.
Right. Yeah, you've certainly, at least in what your body of work shows, you've embraced it and are confident in what you're presenting to the world, which is really cool. Just personally, I've gotten to see your craft develop because we've just been friends since like right after grade school, you know. And so even you know, you came to Shawnee and started a semester there, and then like you said, ended up going on to Moorhead. Kind of had an adventurous spirit where all of your friends are still attending Shawnee State, and then you're kind of going off on your own, starting this ambitious new program with the skill set that just you have. And it was always fun to just hear you like report back things like that. Like they say my voice like is kind of unique and I don't know where to fit kind of thing. And so watching you work that out over time has been amazing.
Thanks.
Have you always felt at least the desire to create something or create some kind of body of work we've listened to like heavy metal and all kinds of stuff, like going to concerts and stuff together.
Yeah.
You've also listened to your taste in music certainly changed,
It's
maybe.
very strange, yeah.
But have you ever had the desire to create something, Noah?
I think so. Even as like a middle schooler, I guess, I was in like Windows Movie Maker and making like these anime music videos because I'm kind of a nerd, and the music I like Linkin Park and all that 2000s rock and stuff like that.
Sure.
Emotionally, it felt good, and I could connect these two things. So I could make something unique, and of course, as a child and probably still today, I like the attention, which is whatever. But that kind of carried on to eventually music. Once I realized, or I kind of just fell into this pocket of like other musicians, like you said, I kind of picked things up really quick, and I kind of saw what they were doing, and I wanted to pick it up. So then I started picking it up, and I think it was Alex Lindemood was the first person that I really kind of saw doing the thing, and then I was like, I want that thing, and then I started to do the thing, and
that was what, like playing acoustic guitar or listening to different musical influences, or?
I think it was like choir in like 7th grade or 8th grade maybe. I think it was 8th grade choir, and then I was just like, wow, this guy's good, and there was a confidence, and I knew that there was something happening that he was doing that was inherently important and like artistic and creative, and I'm like, that was appealing.
Right. No, yeah, I think like music in general, like I know it's been a large part of your life, and we've even like our friendship, we've related over a lot of the music that we've listened to, but even in the area that we live, which has been historically up until just recently, like 2019, in an economic like downslide from like 1934, populations continued to decline, etc.
Yeah.
2019 is the first time that Portsmouth experienced some kind of influx, and obviously you're from the area, so you've felt that and like been a part of it. But I think music in general has a huge impact on economically depressed areas, and it's tied heavily to it. Like you hear Jason Petty talk about like the best art comes from pain kind of things. It comes from poverty, places that don't have like material things to cling on to as much, where maybe like the economic, I guess just the average of what people make and have is low. And so places like this, I feel like, is really where creativity thrives. When people lack capital, they start to cling to creative influences.
For sure.
Even being like a poor college student, you know what I mean? That's when I can remember being my most creative self, when I was really just an explorative state, or in a state of pain of like being away from home, like when you went off to school when we were all in like on the other side of Ohio. Yeah.
There's something about that, of like being in the situation that a lot of people here are in, and it almost calls for a search, for like a this hunt to be okay, or to like solve the problem, or to solve their own problem, or whatever scale it is. There's definitely a search that happens, and a hunger for
like to create relief, something of value,
to create something of value, which will relieve something of people, hopefully. I think, at least for me, that's kind of what it is I hope that I can bring a relief or a change. That's as stereotypical as that is, I want to change the world, but I think there's change that can be made, and in a good way.
Yeah. No, I don't think that's uncharacteristic or like cliche of you at all, Noah, because even just like the things that I do, like or the podcast, Nick, our brother, like my brother writing books, and a good friend of yours as well, just you have a desire to improve the things that other people are creating and to create something of value yourself, just to be a part of that process. I think you just naturally gravitate towards it.
For sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, sorry,
No.
stepping on you. I guess it's funny if you think that this thought just popped in my brain, and I must get it out. But music, I mean, it's probably not just music, but that's kind of my realm, I suppose. It's funny how intrinsic that is to like people. You know, I think it would be hard to find someone who doesn't sing or hum or whistle or tap on something throughout the day.
Right.
You know, at least I think that's hard to find that person who doesn't do that at least once throughout the day. And there's something there that's important, like that we can, there's a desire in us to like shape the sound and the silences in the sound and like put them together and then make something from that
Right.
expresses our feelings at the time or just carries us out of boredom or whatever it is. I think there's something there. If everyone's doing it at least once, you know, it's like brushing your teeth. Everyone should brush their teeth, but not every. Okay, that's a bad example, but you know what I'm saying. If everyone's doing it at least once, like breathing is important, music must be important too.
No, I 100% agree, man. I feel like, I mean, you look at any totalitarian state or like oppressive regime, like one of the first things that they do is like ban music in the city. You know what I mean? Or ban music in the country. It's like deeply connected to people's sense of well-being. And like in areas like ours, maybe it is the first spark to start a serious flow of capital or just create opportunity in the surrounding area. You see that with people like Robert Black and what he's doing with the Boney Fiddle project, is that when the historic district was really kind of in collapse, music was a big part of kind of that wind of change, you know?
Yeah.
Just being from here, Noah, what part of you just being local and growing up here do you think sinks into your music?
Well, like I think maybe it might be like we were talking about that search and being that kind of explorer for the relief, and being in a place like this. That's going to come more naturally. That desire to find the thing, you know. And I think in my music, I try to have that. And again, I don't like to use the word try because I'm not trying incredibly hard. But I think in my music there is this introspection maybe, and that search is in the music in a way that I hope that people can see that there's something important that I'm trying to reach in the song or in the songs. And I think maybe I don't think that is the case in all music or for all songwriters. But I think around here, other people from around here have maybe that similar thing where in their songs, they're definitely reaching for something. And more than just like an emotion. I think they're really going for like this grand thing that I can't really put my finger on, but they're reaching for it, you know?
Yeah. What do you think, which track do you think is the best example of it? No, I mean, I kind of have in my mind that what you're saying there as far as chasing something like that really reminds me of the first track of your EP. And like, I don't know if it's a woman that you're chasing or something, just metaphorically, there's a person that you're having conversation with in the song.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that one, or what song do you think fits that narrative?
Sure. I mean, yeah, Climbing Trees is it's a search song. I guess they're all search songs, but that one is very obviously a search song. And I don't want to say exactly what it's about, but it is about running towards this thing that you can see, you can almost taste it, and there's a desire there to get it, and it's a romantic thing, and that is why maybe it took the form of a woman in the song, but there is a romantic nature to like this hunt for the thing,
Right.
So the song kind of takes that form.
Yeah. And I feel like especially with this EP, which I don't know what else is coming down the line. I know you have more of your total body of work coming, obviously after your EP, but this one seemed to be like very nature centric. Was there anything intentional about that, and why it was themed that way?
It might be intentional, but again, I don't like the word try, and I don't like the word intentional, because just to explain myself a little bit and not to sound like a snarky, I don't like that word. I guess whenever I'm creating or putting myself in the position to be creative, it just kind of happens. And maybe there's some like conscious activity happening and some conscious decisions being made, but they're very slight and very small and very in the moment, and quick. Then they're gone, and then I'm back in this like problem-solving Zen Buddhist like creative spirit. He's possessed me, and I'm
yeah, you're in this
making
like
the thing.
Like, does that flow state kind of surprise you?
Yeah, for sure. The flow state, that's a good, everyone can understand the flow state,
Sure.
So that's kind of what happens. And then it comes out, and I either like it or dislike it. And then if I don't like it, I put myself back in the position to fix it.
Kind of analyze. Yeah, so you kind of switch in between these states of just play, flow, really attacking it kind of instinctually, and then can take time to kind of reflect on it and be critical and look at the logistics, similar to what you were doing in school.
Yeah, and it's kind of like you have to put on different hats or play different roles, and you really have to separate the characters that are fulfilling those roles. You'll have the writer, who is more of this like in tune with the muse. Yeah, that's a cool lyric, in tune with the muse.
On the spot.
On the spot, there it is. Somebody can have that. But you have that guy who is in tune with the muse, and then you have the editor who has to come out and be more conscious and deliberate, and that's where the artist, comes out, and the artist has like a lot of opinions, and you kind of let them have their day, because there is an ego that has to be fulfilled, unfortunately. And I try to keep it under wraps, but it's there, and sometimes it needs to express itself, And that's where maybe individuality and Noah comes from, is that role, the editor role. But then there is the guy who's like, okay, both of you guys need to just take a seat and chill out, because this is productive, and this is how we're going to market this thing. This is how we're going to get it out. And it's not about you anymore,
Sure.
So there's multiple roles that I think you have to separate yourself into to do the job.
Well, I'd say that's definitely a strength of your work, Noah, where I see it's like people seem to have one or the other. Like they really thrive in a flow state, extremely creative, but they struggle to be intentional. They don't want to follow like an editing schedule. It's difficult to be disciplined and like critique your own work to make it less precious and say, no, this song sucks. Like it has to go all together. Like it, no one can hear this kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's a difficult thing to do. So it's powerful. And I think your work's really been elevated from just like, you've never really, like this is your first like big public published project, but from what I heard from you previously, it's like I feel like this is the first time that you're embracing all those sides of yourself, being less precious, being self-critical, and that's why you've produced like an amazing piece of work.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I hope so. I would be I can't say that I am the only source of like feedback and criticism of my songs, because there was a period of time before I actually started producing them that, and you know this, that I sent them out to my friends, just like 3 songs a month that I was writing and then sending them out and then working on the next 3, and then I would do this every month and send them out to friends and loved ones, and then be like, hey, be super critical, tear me apart. And you guys did, and it helped a lot. And then after that is when I started producing them, which was a whole nother can of worms that then I had to be more like, do I trust them? Do I trust myself? What do I do?
Yeah, you got to take some risks or go off your own intuition.
For sure. And there was definitely like, I put it all in the bag and shook up the bag. You know, it's like trail mix after that.
Noah, let's talk a little bit about the production side of this, because like I had mentioned at the start, your production skills have really helped me kind of hone what the podcast sounds like. Not that it's a perfect piece of work, but I'm like moving in the right direction, making it 1% better every episode. That's kind of my mentality. And your feedback has been the main source of that improvement. So I know, and just by listening to your own work, I can't even begin to kind of like grasp the number of like variables that you're putting into this and the production side of things. How do you get started with that? Because I think that's maybe a more intimidating part of the process. Like I feel like a lot of people get to, acoustic guitar, get to solid vocals, and then maybe freeze up, or could potentially be freezing up getting into that production aspect of it, which I know I would.
Yeah. No, it's
a huge
hard.
barrier.
It's a huge barrier, and it's intimidating, and it's scary, and it's a monster. All the DAWs and work systems, they're scary. I guess the best way to start, maybe, at least for me, is I started, like you were saying, I just put guitar and vocals, and that's what a lot of those three songs that I sent out every month were, just guitar and vocals. And then you kind of have to be a little ambitious and set yourself up to fail, and just do it. Do whatever you think you're hearing in other songs. Like, I guess a good place to start is with harmonies. You hear harmonies in songs, you want to add a harmony to your song. Make another track and sing the harmony. If you hear a synth bass in a song that you really like and you want to add a synth bass, you can either look it up on how to do it, or you can really just wing it and get it in there yourself. And then, so that's like the instrument side of things. But
was there a lot of how to add a synth bass?
Oh, for sure. So many like
lots of Google
and
inquiries,
YouTubes, and everything.
The tech giants all get us eventually.
Well, yes. Definitely lots of that, and that's okay. That's not, there's no shame in learning. It can be from a book or it can be from YouTube. It doesn't really matter. But you have to want it. You can't tell yourself, no, well, I don't know how to do that, so I'm not going to do it. But if you hear it, you should put it in there, or maybe you shouldn't, but make a decision. If it's not hard.
Take a risk.
Take a risk. Kind of yeah, it is hard. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that, but it's not always hard.
What were you using? Talk about the tech a little bit, Noah. What were you using to produce? Do you have specific mics? Did you have a keyboard? Like how are you putting this together?
I started with like a Shure 57, 58, whichever one is the ball, and that was it. And then I bought the other one, the 58. I think.
Talk to people mind level, Noah. Okay. A mic. That's a mic?
That's a microphone.
Okay. You can use the numbers, but I didn't even know.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay. I got a mic, and then I got an instrument mic, which is for your guitars. But I bought 2 of those, and because that's what everybody online told me to do. And then that was the beginning, and then I bought I had to have an interface, which is like the Zoom here, or it can be a Scarlett product. It lets me plug in my stuff into the computer. And And then that was really all I needed to start. And then I bought a bigger interface so I could plug in more fun things. And I bought a little MIDI keyboard for the software instruments that aren't like the real instruments. And then I bought a lot of I upgraded my mic. After that, it's all upgrades, But you don't need all that to start.
Right. So it literally was, and hearing the original tracks that you were putting into Google Drive, it was literally like, get your mic, record acoustics and vocals, then save up for new mic, save up for new interface, buy Logic or whatever software that you used, and just adding it piece by piece. Yeah,
and it wasn't pre-planned. It wasn't like, okay, I'm going to buy this mic now and then this mic later. It was constant like problem solving. Like, okay, this mic isn't sounding how I want it to sound. I need a new mic. Okay, this interface isn't big enough for what I want to do now. Let's move up. Or things like that. If I need a new reverb in my system, buy a new reverb at that point. But it was never like, here's my list of shopping cart things that I want.
And now I can start and be an artist.
Now I can do it. No, it was just a process.
Cool, man. Mm-hmm. Well, that's cool that, thank you for being transparent about that and just kind of laying it down step by step, because it's definitely, when you hear your music, Noah, if I was the kid that like grew up in New Boston or whatever and heard you as an artist that's come out of that same area, wondering like how you get to that step, it's probably like initially very awe-inspiring, but also intimidating if they actually tried to start, right?
Yeah, sure.
So you just going step by step by that is really cool.
Sure. It might sound complicated, but you can do it. It's not like impossible. It's not out of your reach for any artist. Maybe financially, I know it's tough at points, but the actual doing of it, when it comes down to the processing and all the plugins and the making the getting the EQs and the compression and the reverbs and all that stuff, YouTube it, buy a book if you need to. It's not as daunting of a thing as you think. You can start off not doing complex things and it still sounds good.
Yeah, and I would definitely add to that by saying that the time that we live in now, even being in a small town, like 50 years ago, you wouldn't have been able to put together a project like this on your own independently. Yeah. It just wouldn't be possible. You'd have to go to a studio. You'd have to rent equipment. Like, you wouldn't be able to order it on Amazon or whatever. It's just like so many more variables. Now we've kind of been unleashed with this new affordable tech that's been made available to us to really just focus on being creative. We've just been born in a digital time, and I have to remind myself of that, and that's why I just enjoy diving back into history and learning about my family and the generations before me, and just realizing that we have it pretty easy right now. There's a lot of things just widely available to us at low cost to make our dreams come true, kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm not an outlier here. There's plenty of independent artists doing the same exact thing. So it's definitely available. It's there for you to use.
Right. As far as concepting your song, let's talk about the album a little bit specifically, Noah.
Sure.
How do you, just like, what was your process in the concept and putting those 4 tracks together, and what did each of them mean to you?
Yeah. So after the months of 3 songs and sending them out to friends and stuff, I had maybe 21, 22, 23 songs. And then I got flashcards because Nick told me to do this. I got flashcards and I wrote out the names of the songs on all these flashcards, and then I put them into an act structure, like a storyboard essentially. And I put at the top Act 1, the call to adventure, and then Act 2, the underworld, and then Act 3, transcendence, or something along those lines. And then I tried to pick the songs that I could form into this story that fits that narrative. Because plenty of great narratives have that layout, that structure, the hero's journey, basically. And so I laid out the songs in the order that I thought would work. And then I looked at the songs and asked myself, how can I change this song so that it fits into this new, grander scope of a connective story? And so I made the little tweaks to the lyrics, or maybe to the form structures, and now they're this big connected thing. They weren't connected when I wrote them, but now that I can look above them kind of and be the God hand of the creations, I can kind of like structure them and say they all are connected. Right. And I can connect them myself, I guess.
Yeah. No, I think that's an important part of any body of work that artists create, is there has to be some kind of like overarching narrative, meaning it just has more of an impact that way, I think. Art can't necessarily be defined, and you can be as avant-garde as you want with it. But I think projects mean more. It's similar to I don't know, building any kind of brand or business. Like when there's consistencies, when people can see your values in all the little tiny steps you take aligning, just resonates better, like with humanity kind of thing, or just intrinsically, like at a deep level, you feel that there's something right about what he's doing, kind of thing. Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be a story. It can be something else can hold it together. It can be an emotion or an event in that person's life, or anything really. I just happened to pick a story because I thought it was cool.
Yeah, well, it is.
Thanks. Yeah.
So what's the story, Noah? Is there anything, any kind of narrative specifically you want to share?
Sure. It can be whatever you want it to be. It really can. But to me, and it's not mine anymore. It's other people's to make your own assumptions. But to me, it's going to mean something different. It's about a man who is called, maybe not even called, but he finds this woman by chance, or not by chance. And anyways,
a matter of great debate among Nick and Noah, for sure.
Yeah, it's very.
This is all just a result of you and my brother's conversations, is it? Yeah,
it is. My brain is twisted. No, but for simplicity's sake, it's about this guy who meets this woman and is infatuated by her to the point that he gets changed. And it's like the archetypical woman. It's the woman of woman. It's the goddess figure. Mm-hmm. And she takes the man and makes him more than a man. Mm-hmm. And I think as men, that's kind of what women do for us. They like show us, they make us insecure. And that is a form, that's like them showing us how to transcend.
Right.
And I think that's kind of what the story is kind of getting at, is here's this woman that makes you feel all these different things and feel terrible and feel in love and obsessed and like you're drowning sometimes. And in the end, she is the one that helps you become something much, much, much greater.
Yeah, no, it's like almost like a relationship and the dynamics in it. Yeah, it's very very human experience you're communicating. And yeah, the overall body of work, Noah, like while you're communicating that story, it takes all kinds of highs and lows and all kinds of different sounds. Like I think the first song I probably mentioned to you, if I remember correctly, is I Am, and just like what an impactful and distinct sound that specific track has. Talk about maybe like some of those influences. Where's that sound palette coming from? What are you pulling from to all these vocal layers and things that you're adding?
Yeah. So I guess there's a couple. There's probably three that really stick out. There is Dave Matthews. who is this has like eclectic type of lyrics that are more for maybe the hippies, is what people might consider. Like you go to his concerts and you smoke a bowl or whatever, and that's appealing. That type of like lyrical style is appealing to me. But also I love it when he wails and he makes all these weird sounds, and it feels like they're better than lyrics. Those weird sounds and those wails and the weird things he does.
The inflections with his voice.
Yeah. It might be silly to some people, but it feels greater than a lyric to me. And that was appealing. That's a big inspiration probably. I really like Jeff Buckley. He has a really dynamic voice with sometimes he's really soft and sometimes he really goes for it, and there's like a rock in his voice. There's like this jazzy soulful thing in his voice, and I like all those different things that he's doing. And he also makes some weird noises sometimes, and I love it. I love it. I love the weird things, though, especially the strange animal sounds. And then Aurora Agnes, she's kind of getting bigger now, a Norwegian artist. She is probably the closest thing to I Am as far as style goes. It's more like this tribally, chant-like thing that's happening, and there's a lot of voices, and there's lots of contrast. Like there's this soft tone, soft voice down low, and then up top you just hear all these like fireworks kind of happening, and I love it. And that's kind of, I took all those things and I said, that's what I want. And then I stopped trying and I just let it happen, and it came out, which was cool. I think that's what we got to do. You got to say, I like this, and then get out of your own way and just let it happen. Right. You don't have to think about it because they are your inspirations, so it's naturally going to come.
Yeah. And no, you've, I feel like I can say confidently that you pushed and developed these concepts just from the vocals and the acoustics all the way to final production and post-production, mastering, to the point where it is your own authentic sound. And I think that's what we're supposed to do as artists, is not necessarily try to just pull something out of the void, but to participate in this overarching story of humanity of artists before us that are doing something, trying to take it to the next level, trying to pay homage to them, but also create something beautiful that's like relevant to our time. Yeah.
Create something beautiful. That's the goal.
Very, very simple goal, but just like certainly probably the most impactful.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you think about just as far as your goals from here, Noah? Obviously you're going to continue to create work, but do you have anything in mind? Like, did this project set a new precedence for you? Did you surprise yourself and say, wow, there's like, I know I can do this next, or take it to the next level, or kind of branch out in another direction? Like, what's your aspirations for the future?
Yeah. Well, once this was done, I was still learning during the process of producing it and coming up with the ideas that are in it. It was all learning nonstop and trying new things, and they just happened to be what I wanted, or that I didn't even know I wanted sometimes. And now that it's done, there's a little bit of self-denial here, where I'm trying to like keep myself at bay and say, hold up, this project isn't done. Don't get ahead of yourself, and don't jump off this train and get onto another train yet. You kind of have to stick with the same thing so that the next two EPs are cohesive in sound. So there's that. But then I Am was the last minute addition. It was literally, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks before release, I decided I wanted that in it, that piece of the story in it. So I went and created it, and I found something that I didn't know I wanted, and it was that more like maybe I just let myself be more free, and I really liked it. And I want more of that freedom and the risk of scaring people into thinking I am a strange ritualistic chanting Indian in the foothills of Portsmouth.
You certainly give off that vibe, no?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to scare anyone away, but maybe I just shouldn't care. And I am just kind of set a new precedent for me, and showed me that I can do things that I didn't think I could do. So maybe going forward, that's going to play more of a role. Maybe not. I don't really know.
But no, yeah, I'd say that too, man. I mean, I knew how talented you were before you did this project, but it did give me a new perspective of kind of the value of work that you can create, the quality of work that you can create. And so I'm really hopeful, I think for your future. And yeah, no, you were talking about the overarching story of what you're doing and that you're storytelling in your music. And I think that's just the important part of anything that people create, whether it's business, writing, art, music, any kind of product. It's that's what makes what humanity's doing human and relatable, and makes other people want to relate to it. And so I think you just naturally kind of have that priority straight. So I know your work, it's only a matter of time, and a matter of time for people to hear it before it resonates with people, really makes an impact.
Thanks.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah, tell us, man, where we can find you online, follow what you're doing, and just keep up with Noah Colley music.
Okay, so you can find me on Facebook. I'm on Facebook. It's like a band page, Noah Colley. There's a YouTube page. If
Wait,
you want
Meta Noah.
Meta.
Just kidding.
We're in
it's
the
still
verse, baby.
it's still Facebook.com.
Soon to be Meta. When you're watching this in 3 years.
The branding's there, dude. You haven't noticed it on Instagram yet?
Yeah, it's all over. Yeah, it's everywhere.
Trippy. I was telling Aubrey about it, and she's like, I don't see it anywhere. And then I swear, as soon as I mentioned it, the new footers were up on her Instagram. Those bad boys are listening, dude. They really.
Our brains will be recoded soon.
We'll all just be energy beings listening to Noah's music.
Good. My energy can touch your energy in a not creepy way. But I'm on Facebook, Noah Colley. Instagram, Noah Colley Music. I don't really touch that too much right now. But if you reach out, that's cool. I'm on Spotify, Apple Music, Pandora, pretty much any listening platform you can imagine, and YouTube. So please reach out if you would like to. Love to hear from you and what you think about everything.
Last footnote for anybody else that's trying to release something independently. What'd you use to put your music on all those platforms at once, kind of deal, get it out?
Yeah. So once you get your stuff made, and you got the stuff, you need a distributor, and I use DistroKid. It's it's $25 a year, but if you want to set a release date, it's $40 a year. That's where they get you. So you get one of these distributors like DistroKid, and then you send them your MP3 and put in all the information, the song name, the album artwork, stuff like that, and then it's as easy as that. You just hit the send button, and then they send it off and do all the other complicated, confusing thing for you.
No, thanks so much for your time, bro. Really excited to hear music. Keep listening to We the Water. Stream We the Water. Thanks, guys, for listening.
Thank you.